Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Okay, how are you?
I'm excellent. I'm excellent. I was already visiting your site and I heard 3 of your students and also some professors. So that's very nice to hear and to see what you do and what you did and what you are doing now. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for joining with us, Mr. Tishoff.
Okay, thank you for the invitation. Do I have to start because I don't know how it is organized now? Can I tell my story or do I have to wait for something? Because I also sent my PowerPoint to you. Can I share it on the screen and then start explaining, or how is it organized? What do you expect from me right now?
Maybe Prof. Siswoyo can introduce about our doctoral program, and Mr. Tishoff sharing with us about how university program in postgraduate.
Okay, you can call me Mr. Case. Maybe that's easier than Mr. Tesselhoff.
Okay,
I'm very happy. Thank you very much for respectful pronouncing my name, but I have the same problem with your names, ladies and gentlemen. So if I made a mistake in pronouncing a name, I'm sorry. It's not that I don't like to do it, but I know sometimes I pronounce it completely wrong. So I'm sorry. But if you like to call me, then call me Mr. Case. That's easier than Mr. Tesselhoff, and sometimes I don't know if you call me, so I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Case. Okay, Mas Awang, maybe we can starting our agenda.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, let us pray and praise God. Because of His blessed mercy, we can come together without any obstacle here with healthy conditions. In the sharing session of academic experience in managing the university program and teaching, the Honorable Professor Dr. Siswoyo Haryono, MM, MPD, as head of Doctoral of Management Program at Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, the Honorable Dr. Kees Tesselhoff as keynote speaker, the lecturer at Section University of Applied Science, Netherlands, in the Department Marketing and International Management. Furthermore, welcome to all participants of the seminar present today. Before we come to the main session, let us start by praying first. So, the event that we will hold on this day will run well without any obstacle. Praying begins.
Do I have to start?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible to share my PowerPoint?
Okay. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No
Yeah, wait a minute. Okay. Now we come into the main point: a sharing session of academic experiences in managing the university program and teaching. We invite Professor Dr. Siswoyo Haryono, MM, MPT, to guide this event. To Professor Siswoyo Haryono, the time is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Awang. Yeah. Thank you, Awang, for my opportunity to start this discussion. Yeah, I would share my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, Mr. Case, I would share my introduction for the meeting.
Yeah, okay.
To give you a picture about who are we, who we are here. So then we'll help you to start or enter the discussion, or you share your PowerPoint presentation after knowing a little bit about us. Okay. But before that, I really appreciate, and very thankful for your willingness and your readiness to join and to give your experience that will be very valuable to us since we are here, the new program actually.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we start introducing our program, Mr. Case, I would introduce to the audience here. I would like to introduce to them. Okay, your full name is CJ Tesselhoff. Call name is Kees. Yeah, call name is Kees. Date of birth April 20th, 1963. So you are the same year with mine. Yeah,
Yeah.
the same year. You are in April and I'm in November. Yeah, November 1. So
Okay, good.
otherwise you are still older than me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still younger than you. But the spirit, you are still young. Yeah, for Mr. Case. Present address is in Netherlands. In Netherlands, in section University of Applied Science, Netherlands.
Okay.
And the expertise coordinate part-time education, develop competencies and implement the competencies in the program in financial accounting, corporate finance and capital budgeting, international financial management, management accounting, cost management, specialized in time-driven activity-based costing, accounting information system, management control, corporate governance and auditing, and also process management and IT governance. So related to IT, technology and finance and accounting.
Yeah, that's true.
Work experience, university 20 for 4 years.
Yep.
Right. Okay. And then as a lecturer, case development. Yeah. And then founder Copland Scholar Humans Cup. It's hard for me to say in Netherlands. It's 5 years for 7 years. Yeah.
Yep.
Lecturer accounting to a bilingual education. And then 1 year in Carnival Cruise Lines, yeah, in the ship, industries, ship cruise line. And then Amro Bank. Oh, you were also a banker, yeah?
Yeah, I am.
yeah, for 6 years. So really a practitioner, yeah, really a practitioner. Okay. And then 26 years, yeah, this is the longest, yeah, your experience. 26 years as a section University of Applied Science lecturer and coordinator of part-time education. Okay, and also at Open University Business Process Modeling and IT years for 3 years. In IT for 3 years. Okay. Regional expertise. Mr. Case have been visiting Indonesia, China, Vietnam, United States, Europe, France, Germany, England, and Belgium, all related with universities. Yeah. So that's why very good to share right now. Languages: Dutch, English, German. So you have 3 languages, yeah, 3 languages. I also 3 languages, but Japanese, Indonesia, and English. Yeah. Okay. Educational record. I think it's okay. Publication, case study in January 2010. So many publication.
Yeah.
It is our concern also in our university to encourage every lecturer, every staff here to publish, to publish.
Okay, very good, very good.
They are asked, they are projected for one article for 1 year. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chris. I have introduced to the audience. And right now the audience are 34, 34 audience. Okay. Okay, our program is held by Muhammadiyah. Muhammadiyah is religious Islamic organization who work for social movement, to enable people to increase their life quality and from the Islamic perspective movement, that Muhammadiyah Foundation. And then so far up to now, Muhammadiyah University has 172 colleges, colleges. That number come from 159 Muhammadiyah college under the auspice of Muhammadiyah and 13 universities under ISIA. ISIA is the women movement from Muhammadiyah, is the ISIA. So ISIA has 13 universities. So the total 172. Okay, this is this is the latest, the latest situation, because some colleges merger, with say is higher school, then merge become one universities like that. So will be decreased here only 162. Right now already 162. From Muhammadiyah 154, and from ISIA is 8. Consists of 9 institute, 9 institute. Institute usually only 2 or 3 subjects, University is 5 minimum subjects. But for the higher school or postgraduate school, usually smaller, only 1 or 2 subjects only. And then academy is until level 3 years diploma, 3 years diploma, academy or polytechnic. And we have 60 universities and 82 sekolah tinggi. Sekolah tinggi means higher education institution, but higher school, high school. Okay, this is UMY, Universitas Muhammadiyah, is one of 82 universities, owned by Muhammadiyah movement. And now from 100 Islamic international universities, Muhammadiyah is ranking number 4. Ranking number 4. So for the 100. So we are better than Al-Qura University from Saudi Arabia, because it is number 5 and we are number 4. And Cairo University, very old university in Egypt, or Mesir in Egypt. Cairo is ranked number 3. So we are number 4 in terms of international Islamic university rank. But for national rank here, from Webometric rank, we are also very big 10, top 10 good universities in Indonesia. Okay, that's for the general University of Muhammadiyah and Muhammadiyah itself. And then the establishment of PhD in management, the establishment of PhD in management program. So we got a license number in October 16, 2018, 2018. So PSC management program, it has been running for 3 years so far. And then the first semester started in February 2019. So our PSC program now come to the 6th semester, yeah, this September, already 3 years. So we have no products, alumni for PSC and management program. Okay, this is the accreditation from National Accreditation Board of Indonesia is Baik Sekali, ya, Baik Sekali. Do you know Baik Sekali, Mr. Case?
Yeah.
Very good, yeah, very good. Yeah, our accreditation now, our PSC management program is very good. Yeah, even we are still young and new program. It's very good. Okay, I think that's all our background for our program, PSC management. And Mr. Case, our problem here, we have all now 44 students, yeah, all 44 students. PhD in management student consists of marketing and financial management and also human resource. Yeah, we have 3. But the comparison between the major of study between marketing, financial management, and human resource is the first rank, yeah, 60% student, 60% in human resource, and then marketing is 30%, and finance 10%. So 1:3:6, yeah, the proportion of the student between marketing, human resource, and finance management. So someday maybe you can be our external examiner from the Netherlands. We use Zoom like this to as an examiner for this dissertation defense, like in finance, yeah, in finance management. And our problem, Mr. Case, our problem here, the student mostly worker, yeah, they work. So maybe only international student. We have 9 international students right now. That's really full time. But for the new enrollment, the international students, they are still living in their country. So they discuss with us via Zoom, yeah, via Zoom meeting. That's our problem right now because pandemic situation. And another problem is also most of the students, not all lecturer, not all from the campus. They are also coming from the business companies, yeah, from the environment of business. So they don't have a culture in writing for publication in the journal. As well, a good program, the students should publish every student at least 1 publication for a year. So that's our most problem actually. So we work hard, yeah. Every lecturer here, we work hard to guide the student, to give the way to publish and how to make a good academic writing. That's our problem here, yeah. The most the heaviest work for every lecturer and every supervisor here, because the background is not all from lecturer, yeah, from the practitioner. Okay, their orientation is to get learning knowledge for improving their business, not to be scientists, not to be academician. The academician or the scientist should write and publish and research. But for practitioner, they want to have some knowledge in business and management, then to practice to improve their effectiveness of their business. That's the different view. That is our problem also. Okay, I think that's all, Mr. Kiss, what we are doing here, and that was our condition. Okay, so please, this is your time, Mr. Kiss, to share your idea about how to manage a university program like PhD in management program, or also how to get the best, the most effective, how to teach them, yeah, to be successful student, finish in the timely, yeah, promptly. Okay, please, Mr. Kes, this is your time right now.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope I can share my screen now with you, with my screen. Then I will look for my PowerPoint. Yes. Can you see?
Dibuat mic host, ya, mic host, administrator.
What do I have to do?
Okay.
Can you see me now? I try to share my screen.
Yeah, only the Zoom.
Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, already.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction, and I know what I have to do, Mr. Siswoyo. I call you Siswoyo. That's
yeah, okay.
If I do it wrong, with all respect, I do my best, but I believe if I do it now with only Mr. Siswoyo, then everybody knows what I mean.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for your invitation. As Mr. Siswoyo mentioned already, from origin, I'm controller. I'm not really the old-fashioned controller, but is only looking for reports, analyzing reports, statistics, etc. I'm more or less an information manager. And that's also the role I played in classes and I played in business life, because as an information manager, you have to know your systems, you have to know the data of your systems. And that is also the way I teach to my students the way of thinking. Because information manager or controller, my old job, is very complex. And it also had to do with the perceptions of the different attitudes, the different behavior of students, but also from managers. First of all, I was concentrating on ERP systems, enterprise resource planning systems, that are the complex systems within an organization. And for my PhD, for my research, I was looking for systems what are not only concentrating on one organization, but they are over the organizations. And nowadays we know, probably you have heard about the blockchain technology and blockchain systems. And my research now is concentrating on blockchain research. I have a few students, 8 in total, what I'm now helping with their master and with their PhD in this subject, because it is my subject, and they help me with producing data. And so I can write my articles and produce more what you call publications than I did before. But that is the way of life. That is my way of thinking yet. When I start, I always start to recognize the audience I'm in, and that is also the reason that I'm, ladies and gentlemen, I Googled. Yeah, so welcome, and then I will do it in Indonesian. Selamat datang dan saya merasa terhormat untuk berbicara di sini. Hopefully I said it correct.
Yeah.
But
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
If you do this, and I speak a lot over the world with a lot of different audiences, I always try to pick up one of the sentences or one of the main languages of that audience. So I start my welcome in their language. That is one thing what I believe, that is respect of the audience, respect of the what you can know from them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud about that I have the opportunity, the possibility to talk to you and to share my knowledge with you. First, I will give you an international overview because I'm from 1963, and you heard already from Mr. Siswoyo, that is a very important date, 1963. So many famous people are born at that date, Mr. Siswoyo. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will give you an overview from my career from that moment, because it was always international orientated. And that is also one of the things. I'm not a Dutchman anymore. I'm an international manager. I'm an international teacher. And that is something what is difficult to start with, but it is an opportunity for you, for all of you to think of. Then I have within Saxion with more than 20-year experience in international teaching. That was not only for applied sciences, but also for universities. So I have the experience, and I like to share this experience more in detail with you. And then, ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions during my session, please ask. There is at the end always the opportunity to ask questions, but if you have a question to a certain page, or you have a certain question about a topic, then feel free and disturb me, and I try to answer it at this moment. If I believe I can do it later, then I will do it later. But ask questions, ladies and gentlemen, because that is one thing I've learned. That is the most important thing. Students, people, ask questions, because then you come to know what you like to know. And it also had to do with different perceptions and perspectives. I started my international career, and that was mentioned by Mr. Siswoyo. I started my international career within Carnival Cruise Lines. This ship on this picture was the first place outside the Netherlands where I lived on. For more than 1.5 years, I lived on this ship. And I can mention it had great times, but also some very important learning moments, bad times. And I started my international career, and at the end, finally, I said, okay, I continue with my international career later on. I was 21 when I started over here. And why I mentioned this, because most of my students are in that age. Yeah, if I look now what I'm seeing around at the universities, then they will be 18, 19, but mostly 20, 21, 22 at that age. And then I tell them 2 stories, and it had nothing to do with the technical or the hard skills you have. You have your diplomas, you have knowledge, you know what to do, but you also have to remember that we need some soft skills. And then I explained them that what they do, what it is a journey. It is something you have to get the experience. And I will tell you the same story, what I always tell my students. I was 21. I traveled from Amsterdam to London, Heathrow, and from London Heathrow to Atlanta in the United States, and from United States, from Atlanta to Miami, my main port, and where the ships are sailing from. When I arrived in Miami, and that is just like in Jakarta, they are huge airfields, huge, and really when they are villages, yeah, they are very huge. And if you are, I was alone, 21, I didn't speak the language quite well, and I lost my luggage. My luggage went in Atlanta to Los Angeles, and I flew to Miami. And if you are alone and you have no luggage, you don't speak the language quite well, then you have to be flexible. You have to be creative, because you don't know what to do. Nowadays, we have social media. Yeah, you Google, or you ask your parents what to do, or you ask someone else what to do. But at that moment, I was completely by myself. And then you have to solve this problem. And then you will see, and that I have many examples of this, then you will see that you have many people who like to help you. First of all, you will see a big environment with many people walking around, and then you're by yourself in a huge different or in a very different society. But I went to the secretary helped me, and they solved my problem. 2 days later, I have my luggage and I can continue. Another thing is also an experience what I have with international students, and that is also something I shared with my students, but also with my colleagues, and that is homesick. Yeah, it is. I'm always talking about the soft skills, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not talking about the hard skills. I come up to that later. But homesick, I traveled a lot before I went to United States, to Miami. We had vacations with my parents, 5-6 weeks, and no, I've seen a lot of it before I went to the United States, to Miami. But when you're alone and you have to work 80 hours, 90 hours a week to overcome all the problems you see you have on board, I didn't speak the language quite well. I have to do things I didn't expect to do. I have to count bottles in the storeroom. I have to do this. So after 6, 7, 8 weeks, I come onto the port of Puerto Rico, one of the islands in the Caribbean. And then I became homesick. And that is also something I shared to my students. And I said, okay, you are not the only one who is lonely at certain moments. You are not the only one who had a problem. So please, and that is also what I mentioned to the students, feel free to communicate or with friends in the same language or with someone who can help you or maybe can help you. I was sitting on a bench in Puerto Rico. I was looking at the ship and I was homesick. I had the opportunity. I had to make 2 decisions. Or I can go back home to the Netherlands, or I can stay and become an international controller at one on the ships. And that decision made my career for the last 38 years. I mentioned at that moment, okay, if I like to become an international manager, then I have to stay. And then I have to solve all the problems I will come over. And I don't know how to solve it. Sometimes you have to be creative. Sometimes you have to postpone your problems. And then you will say, I will see tomorrow. I will see in 2 or 3 weeks. But at that moment, I made the decision in front of this ship. Yeah, and on this picture, I mentioned, okay, I like to become an international manager. On the ships, I learned also Spanish. It was not on my CV, but I learned on the ships Spanish because many employees on the ships speak Espanol. They speak the English and the Spanish language. So I learned 69 different countries or cultures on the ship. I worked with them, and then I said, okay, that is what I like. That's what I like to do. How can I manage this? How can I manipulate people in a way that they do exactly what I like to do? Because I have targets to reach. As you know, in the United States, as in America, you have targets to reach. If you don't meet your targets, you have to go home. They are fired. It's very simple. It was also very simple for me. You had to reach target. I have to produce a report at the end of the week, and this report must be in time there. It doesn't matter if it was something happened on the ship, hurricane or whatever. No, the report must be there, because headquarters asked for it. So I worked with targets. I worked with people to reach those targets because you have to work with different nationalities in the kitchen, in the bars, the bar manager, the food manager. Everybody had to produce the figures in time. And so at that moment, I start thinking, okay, how can I manage this? This is the way I like to control myself. And that's the first aspect of controller. Try to organize it in a way that you can reach your targets. It is all very simple on board. In the first step, I was responsible for 2 or 3 ships in Miami Harbor, and then later on I became responsible for 5 ships, also responsible for the ships cruising from the Los Angeles. So And I've seen a lot of the world, ladies and gentlemen. I've seen from Alaska in the north of the United States to Mexico in the south. I went to Pittsburgh, Washington, Bermuda Islands, to the south to Brazil. And yeah, I've seen a lot of course, ports, but also sometimes the mainland of certain countries. And the weather was always good, ladies and gentlemen. The same as in your country, it is always good, and that's what I also like. Yeah, because the Dutch weather is now in the Netherlands is dry, but normally it rains a lot, even in the summertime. After 1.5 years, I was finished this job. I quit this job because I did everything what I could learn on a ship. I got an opportunity to get a job on mainland on the headquarters in Miami, but that was not the thing I liked at that moment. I was now 22, 23, and I like to travel. So I went back to the Netherlands and I become employee at AmroBank. It was not merged at the moment with the ABN, and I become an employee of AmroBank in international office. I start my traineeship in Paris, in France. I lived over there for 1 year. I also learned a little bit of the French language, so I know all Dutch, French, Spanish, German, and English, of course, because that is the main reporting language. So I went to AmroBank. And within the AmroBank, I got the opportunity to travel again. I traveled for the international offices in the foreign countries. I was for the AmroBank in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in many places, many cities in Europe, in France, in Germany. And I also went back to the United States, Houston, Chicago, New York. And I did this for 7 years, 7 years, and traveling was my business at that moment. I was looking around different cultures, got different opportunities to learn reporting, especially reporting to the Dutch central bank, because at that moment it was very important to report in time, again targets, and to learn how it was done on the international offices. And after 6-7 years of traveling, ladies and gentlemen, I'm married. I met my wife at the end of the term in ABN AMRO-Bank. I only helped after the merger with ABN to develop an ERP system. It is called MIDAS, Modular International Dealing and Accounting Systems. So this was developed for ABN AMRO-Bank. We developed this in Cologne in Germany. And in Germany, I stayed also for 1 year. And then after this, I quit and I became employee. I became teacher at Saxion, because in the meantime, in the 7-8 years I traveled, I noticed that I liked it to explain things to people. Employees, you can call them employees. I've never been, I was a manager, I was financial director, I was controller. I have very beautiful names, but I'm still trying to explain something to people. And the same is, I am a teacher, I'm professor, but I don't need the title professor or manager or controller. I'm Kees Tesselhoff. And I try to explain students, but also employees, and that's also why I'm happy that I'm in now with you. I try to share my knowledge with all people who like to improve themselves. And that is also why I became teacher at Saxion Applied Sciences, because at that moment I'm more or less comfortable with applied sciences and not with university, what is more abstract. Of course, I like the formulas. I like all the abstract ideas behind a theory, but I also like to explain it more practically. So if I have to explain liquidity ratios, or I have to explain exchange rates, or I have to explain reporting in EFRS or GAP, then I try to explain it as practical as possible, because if you can translate this into the mind of your students and your employees, then it fit, then they remember it, and then they can practice, then they can use it. So I became teacher at a section university, and that was really a good start. Again, international, and that is also the reason, ladies and gentlemen, I was in Yogyakarta. I checked it back, but it was in 1917 or 19, or that's, I didn't check yet correctly. I was at Universitas Gadjah Mada at the Faculty Economics and Business. And I lived, or I stayed in the Hotel Grand Aston in Yogyakarta. Maybe you heard about it, maybe you know the Universitas Gadjah Mada, but I was over there because, and that's also one thing, I had a group of mixed students. The students were 4 students, one from China, one from Indonesia, one from Germany, and one from the Netherlands. And I played with the students a game. And the game was arranged by this Universitas Gadjah Mada. And the best teams, and I believe, but I don't mention, I'm not sure, the best teams, and I believe 10 teams were invited to come to Yogyakarta to play it the final rounds over there. And that was also the reason, because I'm the coach and I have to travel. So I had the opportunity to come to Yogyakarta and stayed over there with my team. And they become, at the end, finally, they become 4th in the line of, I believe it were 250 teams were started, and my team become 4th. And I'm also ambitious. I'm always ambitious with myself, but also ambitious with my students. And before I came in Yogyakarta, I traveled by train from Jakarta to Yogyakarta. So I've also seen something of your environment from Jakarta to Yogyakarta. A nice travel, a nice stay in the train. And then, yeah, that was beautiful. And in Jakarta, I mentioned yesterday to Mr. Sisboyo, I worked for 1 week for BINUS, and Professor Augustinus Nicolas Hillebrand was my my guest, my inviter at BINUS. So I worked with him in Jakarta, but that was a complete different university and a complete different environment. So I went to many different countries. I've stayed in the United States for a while, in Europe for a while, and also, I did my job. Ladies and gentlemen, well, you have to remember that in those years from 1985 to at the end 1990s, 2000, there was no social media. Yeah, so you have to communicate with your parents or with anybody by mail. No, not by mail, by letter or do a collect call. Yeah, so the environment is really changed in the last few years, and becomes more fascinated now, I believe. After this, ladies and gentlemen, I become teacher, and now I come to the last 20 years of experience. Some cities I worked for, because in 2000, we start at Universities of Applied Science in section, we start with an international study, with an international bachelor. And the international bachelor was something what we, just like you do now, you are now improving yourself by looking around, or what can you do, and share knowledge with your environment. We are starting a new course, and that was difficult. So what they decided to do in 2001 and 2002, they decided to send some teachers who like to travel and who like to learn from different cultures. They sent them abroad. Now you might imagine, I traveled a lot already before. My wife liked to travel as well, so but she stayed also a few times in the Netherlands because it was not possible, because we also have children, yeah, it was not always possible to travel together. But in the first 2 years, I went for almost 6 months to especially Beijing. You have a question? Oh, I'm sorry. We traveled in 2002 for 6 months to Beijing and Hanoi. Why those cities? Why those countries, Vietnam and China? Because when we started in 2001 with new students, they came especially from Asia and especially from China and Vietnam. Why? I haven't done research for this, but we had many students from those countries, and we had a problem to manage this at our university because the culture was completely different. We had mixed groups. Main group was the Netherlands. So if we have a group of 30 students, then 10 were Dutch and 15 were Asian, and 5 Germany, maybe Poland, but not really that much, but especially 15 and 10. And that was, how can you manage this in your classrooms? How can you manage this that they do the things you like or you ask them to do? Because it was important and still important that they have to work together. But as you remember, if you have the feeling that as a student, 19, 20, 21 years old, and you have the feeling that the other party doesn't understand you, or doesn't want to understand you, or doesn't like to do the same thing you like them to do, or doesn't do anything at all without communicating. So you know that there will be a friction. And we had the friction in the beginning. And we didn't know that we have to deal with culture differences. So that was also one thing, ladies and gentlemen, we had to deal with the cultures. And to stay for me a while in China and in Vietnam, in Hanoi and in Beijing, I learned the way of thinking. I learned the way of communicating with them. And that is completely different as in the Netherlands. And still, we are now 20 years ahead. We have differences between Asian countries and European countries. And that is, with all respect, no problem, but we have to manage it. So the first time I came in China, in Beijing, that is also something. Ladies and gentlemen, I was also in Jakarta. I was also in other huge main cities, in Houston, but also in Lyon. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ask a teacher to come to your country, be so kind that you have someone on the airfield, airfield to get them, to pick them up. Because I was in Beijing, and that was like Miami, like Heathrow, like Schiphol, Amsterdam, like also Jakarta. They are huge environments, huge places. And if you only give them an address for a hotel or for the university campus, that's not enough, because the impression of the world, the outside world, is enormous. And if you are not an experienced traveler, then you have a real problem. So when I come into Beijing, there was
Excuse me, Mr. Kees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask you something. All your experience is very amazing to me, to explore the knowledge and your experiment in your experience in life. Is that all your experiment you bring that to your class, or how can you manage that? Thank you.
Because if we have classes, I'm also teaching, I'm teaching at Applied Sciences at Saxion, and I'm also teaching at university, Open University in the Netherlands. And I always start my introduction with a short introduction of myself. And then I start explaining, because my topics, if I talk about management control, it's about behavior, human behavior. Human behavior had to do with what we all know. How can we manage someone, an employee, a manager, in a way that he or she will do exactly what you ask them to do? And then I manage this. Then I say, okay, if you become then I will tell them stories about my experience. And then I will say, okay, I like to have that you will do exactly what I do. You have the question now about my experiences. And then I share my knowledge with experiences I had in the past. Because if I tell them that it is not that easy to change the behavior of your employee, then you have to give them an example. Then you have to give them an example that if I talk to you as a person from Indonesia, or I have to talk in an international environment with someone from Oman, then I have to do it in a different way, because the communication skills and the communication languages are sometimes different. Also, the perception of and the attitude of people are different. The same is if I talk to you from Yogyakarta, you are maybe different as one from Jakarta. So I also ask my students, where do you come from? Where did you live? Did you live in a big city like Jakarta, or are you coming from the country, from a village in Java, for example? Then you have a different perception and a different perspective of a job. Yeah, because in Jakarta, you have to do with city people, and city people, they are already more open. They have another opportunity, they have other skills. If you come from a village from Java, then you have more the family trend, the family-minded idea. So this is for me always important to understand this culture. And this culture, this experience I received by traveling myself and by the experience of what happens. And also when I was in Beijing, if you are not picked up the first time, yeah, and you have to find out your way in China, you have to trust a cab driver that he bring you to the place, the correct place, because I can't read the English of the Chinese language on a visit card, on a business card. I received a business card, I showed the cab driver, and he had to bring me to that place. If he didn't do it, I don't know. So you have to trust people sometimes. And I also had bad experience. One time I had to travel between two different universities in Beijing, and I had a cab driver who brought me to the wrong place. But at that moment, I know a little bit from Beijing. And then I know, okay, this is the wrong direction. And this is, if you tell this your students about behavior, about how they can manage. So I don't have to tell them how to add 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 is no difficult. If I have to tell them about theory, there's no difficulty, because the theory is exactly the same in your country as in my country. Yeah, because we have, if I'm talking about bookkeeping, if I talk about reporting, of course, we have different values, different ideas behind, but that's not the point. It had to do with the background of, and especially in international, even for a PhD student, a PhD is not only looking for this environment, they had to, a PhD had to have a broad view of your research topic. So the research topic is not bordering at the end of Indonesia. No, it's also going to Australia, to Singapore, to whatever. Yeah, so you have to keep in mind that this is very important to explain to students that there is more than only one thing. And during my sessions, I always explain this to my students, because I'm not explaining, and that is also different in Asian countries, I don't make a PowerPoint of the theory, because my expectation is, and that is also what I mentioned to my students, you can all read, because otherwise you was not here. You can read the book. You have to read chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And during the sessions, I will ask you about the topics. During my sessions in class, I will ask them, but with practical examples. All my examples are at that moment ask for, okay, you have to deal with, okay, we have to do with a balanced scorecard. Yeah? Why do we need 4 perspectives? Yeah? Why do we need financial, organization, marketing, and innovation, or learn and grow? Why do we need? Why is it balanced scorecard? So, and then I start with, okay, before it was all related to reporting, a balance sheet, profit and loss report, cash flow report. And now we are looking for a more balancing information system because it is all related to my organization. So that is how I organize it during my classes. And I believe culture is for me a very important part. And what I also learned when I was in China, and that is an anecdote I like to share with you. The anecdote in China was when I came in Beijing, and that was the first time that I was in China. I brought the book of Horngren, and they asked me to teach the first 3 chapters of Horngren. It's basic accounting, so I don't have to think of the content, because the content is familiar to me, but I had to do with how can I explain this. So I asked them, okay, I have 24 students at that moment in my classroom, and I asked, okay, do you have a book? No, we don't have a book because we didn't know. No, it's just like normal. All students have no book if you ask them the first class, because they have to, it is an investment, and they have to know if you use the book quite well. And so I mentioned it, and then the head of that department asked me, can I use your book? Then we can make copies of it. No, fine, no problem. But we all know what is in the front page of all books. Copyright. Yeah, copyright. But 2002, China, they changed the word. They had to say, they mentioned it was not copyright, it was right to copy. So they made copies of every chapter, and then they translated into Chinese. So, and that was also one thing, and that is also one of the sheets I had to cover, that had to do with languages. And in languages, they have to learn English, the English business terms, because that is also something, because if you don't know the business term, and or you have to read a newspaper, or you write to look for the news, or you have to discuss it with other team members, then you have to know the business terms. And that is also something, that is also what I do during classes. I use synonyms, many synonyms. Yeah? So, because that is also something what they have to take care of, because it is mentioned in Indonesia, this, but in Europe, in Germany, it is called this, or in English, or in the United States, it is had a different term. So they have to be flexible in mind that what you do is not, there is not only one word for it, there are more words meaning the same thing. And that is what I learned by my culture travelings. When I traveled a lot, when I traveled for Saxion, we also saw that not everything was all right. We had to deal, we forgot one target group, and that is our teachers. Yeah, we spent a lot of time, we invest a lot of time for our students, we invest a lot of time about the content, but we forgot our teachers, because not all the teachers want to travel. And if you don't want to travel, that doesn't mean that you are not interested in international teaching, in international schooling, but you don't have time, you don't like to travel, you are scared for it. So what we did, we organized once a year in March, normally in March, an international week. And that's what we did with our exchange universities. So we had a network of universities, and with the network of universities, we are organizing an international week with a certain topic in mind. So we had to do with sustainability, we had to do with internationality, we had to do with what were the subjects? I had once in France, social housing. I was in Aberdeen, and over there we talked about the balanced scorecard, management control. So we had certain topics, and that was not only for the students, but especially for teachers, because it is very difficult for a teacher to teach if you have no information, no idea how to do. How is it work? How does it work in Scotland? How does it work in Germany? So when you have contact with your colleague teachers in different countries, then it is easier to contact them. I had one colleague in Denmark, and she would like to know, because we are playing many games in the Netherlands with our students, because that is a real life situation. So she asked me about how we organize it, and what she can do to improve the gaming in their teaching skills for the students, and also for the teachers. Now, and then we share the information. Nowadays with Teams, Zoom, etc., it is very simple to have contact with. But before it was more problematic. You have to deal with email. We have to deal with traveling to it. But that is something. And that had to do with culture. You have to be open for it. And not all people, not all teachers, students, but also your organization is not always open for it. And that's why I'm very happy that I have the possibility to share my knowledge with you, my experiences with you, because this is the first step in improving a course, but also improve the skills of your teachers, your staff, but also for your students. I mentioned already the language. What I try to do with all my students is try to speak a few words of their languages. Yeah. So if I tell you goedemorgen, that is Dutch for good morning. Goedemiddag, good afternoon. Yeah. That is also what I do with my students, but I also try to do it in their language, in Chinese, in Vietnamese, in Indonesian, all the languages, because that had to do with respect. That had to do with, okay, I like to learn as well from you. It is an interaction. I'm not only there to give my knowledge to them. No, it is sharing knowledge. They can improve my knowledge of the world, my knowledge of your culture. Last year, maybe Mr. Siswoyo knows, because I asked one of the groups to do research in the blockchain technology, blockchain systems in halal food. I have no idea about halal food. I know that it is there, that I know that it is organized, that it is done. But then I asked a group of Indonesian students who are comfortable with the Islam and halal. I asked them to do research. I learned a lot about this. They mentioned, they described the process, they described everything what had to do with halal food and how you can make sure that halal food is also the quality and also the quality of what you expect that it must be. And yeah, that had to do with language, that had to do with culture, and that is something you have to be open for it. And ladies and gentlemen, one thing else in languages, I always like to have mixed groups, because one thing what I don't like to say hate, but what I try to ignore is that people speak their own language in classroom. Yeah, when I have a large group of Indonesian students, they speak when they are free in their own language. No problem, but it is better to have them that they speak English and continue English, because you can improve your English only by doing. And when I was 21, I ignored the first 2 months to speak any word English because I was afraid to make a mistake. Then I get warranty from my boss. He said, if you don't speak anything, if you don't like to speak, then you're fired. So from that moment, I start talking. I start speaking English. And I'm not a native speaker, ladies and gentlemen. I will never be a native speaker because I hate languages, but it is something I have to do it. And that is the only way to communicate to each other. Do it. We make mistakes. Yeah, we are not an Englishman. We are not an American. It is not our native language. So, but that's also what I mentioned to my students. Ladies and gentlemen, speak. Tell me something. Yeah, because at the moment you can explain me something in English, then I know you understand. And that is also the reason why my classes are more interactive. I always ask students to explain the content. I know the content, but if they explain, then they know, okay, if I explain this to my colleagues, then I understand it better myself. I learned the business terms, the business words, and I know exactly how and what I've done so far. And language is for me a very important aspect. And then I use English, but I always try to communicate with some students in their own language. And you have a feeling, okay, he is trying it. I make mistakes, okay, but he's doing well, and we will see what's happened. Then I have 4 more sheets. Then we come up to skills. This is also what I'm not looking for the hard skills, because if you attend an applied sciences, or you attend a master course, or you attend a PhD program, you have to deal with the restrictions. Yeah, you have, for a Bachelor of Science, you need your diploma. For a master, you need at least your Bachelor of Science diploma. For a PhD, you need at least a master diploma. So these are the hard skills. I'm not looking for the hard skills because they are very simple, because you can look at any university and then you know exactly what kind of skills you need to start a program. But I'm looking for the soft skills, and that is also something what I'm looking more and more for. I ask always my students at the beginning, why do you attend an international program? Yeah, because if it is only for fun or to get rid of your parents, sometimes I can imagine that it will be good, but I ask them, what is your idea of the soft skill, or what is your idea of an international program? And then they mention things I never thought of it myself. The same for teaching. Yeah, why is a teacher looking for an international course? Yeah, because it is completely different. Sometimes it is easy for me to explain my job, my content into Dutch, because I don't have to think about the words. I don't have to think about it. It's automated. And in English, I have to rethink. So I'm always interested why people, what kind of skills do you need for teaching? And that is also questions you have to ask yourself. What is the reason I like to go into a PhD program? PhD is in the Netherlands. Our PhD programs are normally 95% is in English, yeah, because you have to publish in English. You have to go for international conferences. So it is English. If you go for an international applied sciences, it is all English. So you must have reasons and skills for this, because not all of us can be an international manager, because you need certain skills. You need to be very flexible. You need to be very creative. You can think in the other people's mind, because they do sometimes things you never expect. Yeah, so that is something. It is not only the hard skills you have to know, because when I started my career at the university at Saxion, I thought I only had to explain bookkeeping, accounting, management accounting, financial accounting, very simple. I made my program and I mentioned, okay, we are doing now chapter 1, chapter 2, etc. We are making all the exercises. I made my examination and they have to finish the examination. And if their grade is sufficient, then everybody is happy. And I thought I made a perfect course for 8 weeks. And in the 9th week, they had the examination. And the first time, only 10% passed. 10% passed my exam. And then I said, okay, and then you start evaluating. And evaluating means that you think, okay, first of all, I always think what I did wrong myself. So I start thinking, okay, what I did wrong. And the first instance, you are not seeing that you made the mistake. You only explain the content, but you don't explain why. You don't explain how it works in a different country, how it is reflected, what are the terms in different terms, because I got an examination with synonyms, but I believe always, yeah, you know the synonyms, I mentioned it during the class, so you have to listen and then you know exactly. Then I remember I have to explain more about the environment, about how it works and how it reacts. And from that moment, yeah, and that is the skills as a teacher. You have to make mistakes. You have to fall in the pitfalls they mentioned by others. And then you start thinking, okay, but you need persons, you need colleagues who like to do this, because it's not an easy job. Yeah, it's not an easy job as a teacher to do this, because you don't like to make mistakes. Yeah, we all like to be perfect. Now I can mention I'm not perfect. I made every day, I still make mistakes, and I'm happy make mistakes, because then I know that I'm a human. Yeah, because that is also something, you are the same as your students, you are learning. Only we have the experience. With my age, I have the experience and knowledge, so I know a little bit more, but I'm still learning. And that is something, ladies and gentlemen, as skills, you have to look at it. For the students, that is also something we can see nowadays, that we have different skills in Asia and in Europe. In Europe, the universities are more looking for more people for, they can handle it all themselves. They manage their problems themselves. They are more individual. In Asian countries, you will see that students don't like to make a mistake in respect to the professor. They don't like to show that they don't know. And if I ask a Dutch is not a good example, but if I ask a German or Poland or a Russian student, they give me an answer, and then the reflection can be that it is a bad answer, or not an answer I expected or something. Yeah, they accept this. But if I ask a Vietnamese or a Chinese or an Indonesian student or Cambodia, if I ask them to give me an opportunity or an answer about a certain problem, they hardly come with an answer, because they are afraid to make a mistake in front of a class, in front of the professor. So what they do, they give me a politician answer, a diplomatic answer. You can go left and you can go right, but they don't make the decision yes or no. And that is also one of the skills I'm training now with especially Asian students, because don't be ashamed that you make a mistake. But yet, if you come back to Indonesia and you go back to your professor, then you have to do it in your culture. You have to come back in your culture. So if you are not changing your way of teaching, and they come for 4 years or 1 year in the Netherlands, or in an international course, and they come back to Indonesia, they have to fit back in their own culture. And that is also something we have to be flexible, and we have to be in a way of thinking, okay, students, they come back from the Netherlands, so they are changed. They are changed. After 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, they are changed. And that is also something we have to accept. And that comes up to, the next one, respect. I work with a lot of nationalities I mentioned, and over now, I counted it once, and I had more than 80 different nationalities from Africa, Australia, New Zealand, but also from Indonesia, China, Cambodia, I mentioned Taiwan, Vietnam, and also India, also from African countries, Nigeria, South Africa. So I've seen a lot, and they are black, white, male, female. We have noticed in the news all kinds of nationalities. Examples are given. I only have one thing to all my students: I have respect. I know that it is difficult for them to come to the Netherlands. I know from international teachers, when they come and join me during my sessions, that they have difficulties, but I'm always proud that they are there for my students, for my college teachers, for my staff, for my for anybody, because that is my way of life. And that is also something I teach my students very well. I don't care if you make a mistake, but you can make mistakes. But if you call me stupid, or you had, and you can call me Kees, yeah, because I know my family name is difficult for many international students. But please, Mr. Kees. So there is a kind of respect to each other, and that is something what I also do with my students. I do my best to pronounce your name, or to give you feedback, but always in a way of respect. You did your best, I do my best, and if we do it together, then we will have trust in each other. And that is also, I trust my students, I trust my staff, I trust my colleagues, because I have respect for them. I'm honest in that way. I try to be to communicate as well as good as possible, but I know I'm a human. I know I can make, or I made mistakes. So I am aware of that. Yeah. So, but have respect to each other, to all of you, or even to students with different nationalities, and they are in a mixed group. I mention always, you have to manage, you have to do it together, have respect for each other, and try to find out what you have to do to exchange it, to make it happen, because that is also what will happen in international life. If you have
sorry, Mr. Kees.
Yes.
Yes, you can, please, you can wrap up in more 5 minutes more.
Yeah. I only have one.
Yeah, after that, we'll invite some question. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I have one sheet to go. Then I'm happy. I'm not. This is also the sheet theory and practice, and that is had to do with this one as well. If I look now, and I come back to more to the content of our course in university and well in applied sciences, the theory is learned well by all the universities. You are doing a good job in Indonesia. When the students arrive in the Netherlands, they have a good background. If people come from China or from Vietnam, they have a good background, even from the Netherlands or from Russia and Germany, whatever. But what I missed in many thinking of students, especially in the Bachelor of Science, but also in master within master students, is that they have not the integrated learning idea. And that is something we can learn them better. Even in a PhD, I'm also guiding now, helping now 2 PhD students. And what I missed is their thinking in complexity, in different perceptions. If they ask themselves a question, then they think that's the question, and they don't think that the question can be more broader, wider, whatever. So what I try to do with 3rd year and 4th year Bachelor of Science students is that they help them with management games, not only games, but also with companies, and try to improve the integrated learning. And ladies and gentlemen, integrated learning is not a topic only for students. It is also for the teachers a topic, what needs more improvement, because many teachers have a certain topic and they are expert in it. But to become an expert, we have learned to get to think over the border, but then that's done. In international career, the environment is more wider than we believe in, and that is the integrated learning. I have some companies I work for and for my own research, and I use these companies also to get integrated learning improved for my students, but also for my colleagues, because I believe that's a very important topic, and we miss them in international courses, and that is something we are now exchanging now in our courses. We are looking for integrated learning. So we get our basic, our fundamental theory, but then how to use it. What can we do to improve it? And that is one thing we are working on in the Netherlands, integrated learning. that is not only for the students, but also for our academic, for our staff, very important. And I hope we can manage it, that we improve this before I get retired. So this is something we can work on. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy that I had time to mention this all to you. If you have questions and you don't, we can't maybe not answer all the questions now. On the last sheet, you also have my mail address. If you refer to this session, then you also can make you can ask me questions by mail. And if you like an individual appointment, you can also ask me for an individual meeting to explain something more in detail. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Keys, before I give chance to the audience to
Yep.
give direct question. So actually, I would like you to mention about the program. Yeah, I heard that MBA in section university can be 10 months. Yeah, 10-month program finished for MBA.
Yeah.
And then what about PhD by research? Yeah, PhD by research without academic class. Yeah, so the student applied and then accepted by the university, and then under the supervisor doing research and then finish PhD.
Yeah.
I heard like that. So what is the practice? Yeah, the real happening there.
At Open Universiteit, the PhD program is divided into 4 or 5 academic sections. And had to do with psychology, had to do with culture, and I'm working for information management academic. And we organized the PhD program in a way that the PhD student or the PhD candidate is looking for their own subject, but within a certain range. So it had, if I look for my own topic, I'm an information manager. In information manager, I'm looking for everything what is related of information systems related to over the organizations, though not looking for within the organization, because I have an expert colleague in ERP systems, Guy Janssen, and I'm looking for PhD candidates within the blockchain systems. And so every professor, every doctor has his own experience, and PhD candidate can come up with a topic. And then like you, your position, the manager is looking for a professor who is helping their PhD candidate with their research. So it is organized, and then you get half a year time, 6 months time to develop your research question. Yeah, so you get 6 months time to get your research question developed. And then you have then you must present your research proposal to a committee of at least 4 professors to explain what is your research topic and what is your research method to do your research in. And hopefully at that time you had already produced a proposal, a publication proposal, because that will help you for your final PhD, and then you get 1 professor and a co-promoter organized, managed to you. So as a PhD candidate, after 6 months, you have 1 professor and 1 co-promoter as a team in your team as a PhD candidate. And then you get 4 years time to do your research.
Okay. Is there any minimum number of publication to complete the PhD?
Yeah, you must have at least 4 publications in official peer-reviewed journals. So
4, yeah, 4 publication, yeah.
4 publications.
Starting from proposal, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
4 publications peer-reviewed, and many
Yes.
times double peer-reviewed.
Yes. Otherwise, 4 article published in reputable journal.
Yeah. And how is that in your country? How is it in your program? How many publications must you have
Yes.
to reach your PhD?
Yeah, in our PhD, we are required minimum 2. Yeah, 2
2?
publication. Yes.
I come to your country. I do a new PhD because then
Welcome, very welcome. As I mentioned earlier, yeah, when I introduced you,
Yeah.
that our PhD was new, yeah, it's really new,
Yeah.
and we still develop. Maybe for now require 2, maybe 2 more years, or we will see, yeah, to improve the quality.
How many years is your PhD program normally?
Normally 3.5 to 4 years. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
3.5 to 4 years.
And
Yeah,
is it
yeah,
also-
but the student can be shorter time, yeah, in shorter time if they are really work very bright, yeah, very good students and focus learning. I think it
Okay.
can be faster than 3.5 years, maybe 3 years. Is okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kes, for your answer about my question. So I would invite everyone to give question. Please, everyone, you can give any question about
I see Mr. Toto Wahid.
Mr. Toto. Oh yeah, raise hand, yeah, Mr.
Yeah, he
Toto.
raised his hand.
Okay, Mr. Toto, please you can deliver your question.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Thank you, Professor Sis, and also all the students and management of the postgraduate and doctorate degree of the University Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. And also a very good presentation, sharing knowledge and experience of Tesselhoff. You have a very good experience, and I would like to ask some question. Let me check my list. I'm interested that you mentioned before about the ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, and I have a good acquaintance with Odoo program, which is basically from the open source, now acquired by a Belgium company. And I did deploy the system in one of my clients, which is now successful. Very good, but I would like to know if this is in your organization is being used, what kind of ERP it is, and how hard and how much the cost. Because I make a comparison from the, I forget the name, but international ERP, which is very well known, SAP, and then also I forget that usually have advertisement in the Formula One, and the Formula One organization use this ERP also. The other things, this is basically about the education, since this is the main topic. Thank you very much, Professor Sis and the team who invite me personally for this event. I would like to know from your experience from the 3 perspectives. First is from the student side, and then the curriculum or the system basically, and what is the difference between that. The case is, if Indonesian postgraduate degree or whatever degree they take when they graduated from the university in Indonesia, in whatever the company, basically mostly a local company, is being paid much less than the overseas graduate. And then if the, just like as your experience, if you're working for the ABN AMRO, previously when I graduated, I wish I could work for the bank. And also Deutsche Bank is basically the same, but I do not apply, or I feel that I'm not qualified for them. So what is the big difference in between the student, the program in the university and overseas? And I really hope that later on I can learn much from you, because we are now in Bali is processing to establish an institute of technology and business, which is the focus later on, is to create to develop the student before they graduate. They already establish a company themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a kind of entrepreneurship university that we would like to establish, and now is in the process. So that's 3 things that I would like to know from you based on your experience. Thank you very much, Mr. Tesselhoff and Professor Sis, for the chances.
Mr. Toto, thank you for your questions. Not all questions can be answered in a very short time and a short notice. I'd like to answer your last question immediately, and then maybe we can make an appointment together to discuss your ERP costs and your student curriculum version, because that is one thing I need more discussion. I'd like to discuss your entrepreneurship. What we do, especially with the students in the Bachelor of Science, so the University of Applied Sciences, in the last year, they had to do a graduation. And a graduation, we are now organizing very theoretically, but we try to organize it within companies. Last year, I used 4 students, especially in my research group in blockchain systems. I had a company who is available, who like to share knowledge with us, with the students, and also to become an entrepreneur, because he mentioned, okay, you can help me with my subject, but it is also something, can you be an entrepreneur yourself in blockchain systems or in information systems, or maybe in management or international management? For this year, I had students, 2 students from Romania, and one from Romania and one from Nigeria, and they are working for KAO. KAO, that is a service company, a Japanese mother company is behind it, and they like to share the knowledge in a way that the students themselves had to organize it individually. So they have to become entrepreneur of their own research topic, and they get the help from the company, and they get the help from me. So that is the trias. I mentioned we have students, we have employees, and we have businesses. And this year we improved it in a way that we have 2 students available who like to become a pioneer in a way of, okay, you are now the entrepreneur, this is your topic, and this is what you have to do. One student had to do something in robotics, so she had to organize it in a way that invoices and work paper are automatically recorded in the ledger, and that is now done by scanning it, and then maybe sometimes it was issued or by computer. But how can help robotics in this situation? Now she will be responsible for it, and she is now the one who is in charge of doing this. Now that is something we are working on, but it was not done yet. In the master, the master is more abstract, and in the master I had 2 students who are now developing their own blockchain systems for themselves as a consultant. So they are looking for a private blockchain. We have public blockchain, hybrid blockchain, and public blockchain, and they are now developing a framework to create their own blockchain system for themselves. So they are also, as an entrepreneur, doing their research in this area. In PhD, I haven't seen it that there's no entrepreneur. At PhD, you are a researcher, and as a researcher, you're not always looking for become an entrepreneur. You have other skills and other opportunities to fulfill. But in master and in Bachelor of Science, we help them to become entrepreneur. And we have a direct relation with some companies. About the other 2 questions, I'd like to make an appointment with you, Mr. Toto, to discuss the ERP costs and then how this can be invited in your curriculum. But you have my mail address. If you mail me, then we can make an appointment next week and then we can discuss your topics more in detail.
Thank you very much, Tesselhoff, for your response. And I put my email address on the chat room.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor Sis.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's becoming wide open internationally. Great
Okay.
for University Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta.
Okay.
This could be a doctorate student later sometime.
We are waiting for you, Pak Toto, of course.
Thank you very much, Tesselhoff.
Okay. Okay, yeah, Pak Toto. So you were given the chance to have special discussion with Dr. Kees. So please make a continuing communication, yeah, for setting your schedule, of course, which will the best or the most convenient time for both of you, yeah.
Hopefully, so thank you very much.
Because your time now in your country is 10 hour, yeah, about 10:30, yeah. Yeah, or 10:40 in the morning. So from here,
it's morning for me. It is for you in the afternoon.
Yes, right.
You have now weekend, and I have to start my weekend after your time. There's
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Mr. Kees, Dr. Kees, please visit Bali. We accommodate for you later.
yeah, okay. Thank you very much for giving me the possibility to share my information. Thank you, Mr. Sisboyo Haryono, for the opportunity. And if you have questions, ladies and gentlemen, take the opportunity, mail me, and we can make an appointment.
Okay. Okay, I think it's enough for now. Thank you, Dr. Kees. Yeah, have nice time. Have nice weekend with your family there.
Yeah, thank you very much. We will see
you later.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kees. Okay, I think that's all for the presentation and question. If someone still has a question, please email directly to him. Okay. Okay, I give it back to Awang to be closed this program. Awang.
Okay, thank you to Dr. Kees and Professor Siswoyo for the sharing session. We hope that today's event will get valuable knowledge for all of us. As the Master of Ceremony, I apologize if there are still many mistakes in hosting the program. Before I close, I would like to take a group photo to document today's activities with an open camera in this Zoom meeting. Please the open camera and we take a group photo for the documentation. Oh, ready? Okay. Okay, ready. And 3, 2, 1. Okay, again, and 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you. Finally, we get the last session of this event that is closing. Thank you for coming. Hopefully it will be useful. See you at the next event and thank you.
Okay. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima
Terima kasih,
kasih.
Profesor Sis.
Terima kasih.
Sama-sama semuanya. Terima kasih. Pak Bimo.
Terima kasih.
Alhamdulillah untuk
See you again.
Oke, Ahmad Barkat. Halo, Ahmad Barkat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof.
Yes. You are in Kuala Lumpur, right now?
Yeah, still in Kuala Lumpur.
Okay, still, yeah. So, okay, thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody. I'm leaving now. Okay.
Thank you, Prof. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi. Yo Pak Toto, sampai ketemu Pak
Oke,
Toto.
Pak Bimo, terima kasih banyak. Saya tunggu di Bali.
Iya, Prof. Insyaallah. Izin living dulu.